So let's move on to Stagecoach Mary. Wow, this is a heck of a story. Stagecoach Mary Fields, 1832 to 1914. This sister stood 6 feet tall, and she was very powerful. Now, this was written by Shelby Ashburnier, and it was a great writing. She's from the Department of Education. She was an intern, Department of Education and Visitor Services. Department of Education. But it's of a college. At the end, I give it to you. Standing 6 feet tall and powerful, many bandits learned to stay clear of Stagecoach Mary in the American Old West. Stagecoach Mary Fields carried a gun, smoked, drank, and had a wicked temper. Sound like anybody you know? Mary was the first, quote unquote, African American woman to carry mail on a star route for the United States Post Office Department. We need Mary now. The mail's too slow, Mary. Shoot. So Mary Fields was born into slavery in either, they don't know when she was born, either 32 or 33. They don't have her exact birthday. It's unknown. Like I said, certain things are going to be unknown. Mary's birthplace and other details about her early childhood are also unknown. Mary was a true Lone Star. Oh, she was. And she did things her way. Now, what is known is that she worked for the Warner family in West Virginia in the years leading up to the Civil War. Mary was emancipated in 1863 or shortly after the Civil War. She then moved from West Virginia and went on to the Mississippi River, where she worked on steamboats. All right, so you get the gist of this traveler. Now, that's her right there, young, tall. So I want you to take a look at her younger years and as it progresses to see what's going on. Mary ended up in Ohio, specifically Toledo, Ohio. There, Mary began working at Ursuline Convent of the Sacred Heart. There is a debate over how and why Mary ended up working at the convent. Yet what is known is that Mary's gruff style was not something that fit into the serene calm that was the convent. Now, during her time at the convent, Mary washed laundry, bought supplies, managed the kitchen, and grew and maintained the garden and the grounds. Mary was known to lose her temper and was quick to yell at anyone who stepped on the grass after she had just cut it. This is a character right here. Look at that. It is unclear why Mary left Toledo. Many sources say that she moved to take care of an ill friend, Mother Amadeus Dune, or Dune, who had been Mother Superior in Toledo. Before moving west, had fallen ill. So Mary and Mother Amadeus were known friends. Some records date their friendship all the way back to the Warren family in West Virginia, though this claim is not substantiated. All right, see how she grows and develops. Something happens. So once she arrived west, though, Mary got to work. Mary mainly worked for St. Peter's Mission near Cascade, Montana, where she did many of the jobs she had done before in Toledo. This mission was run by Ursuline nuns and was where Mother Amadeus Dune resided. Mary performed maintenance and repair work. She also gardened and did the laundry. One major thing that Mary was also in charge of was the locating and delivery of supplies needed for the mission, hence the stagecoach beginnings, right? Yet Mary had no official contract with the mission and the nuns. So, right? So they were like, oh, she's gruff, but they had a working relationship. But she had no official contract with the nuns, thus she was free to come and go as she pleased, taking additional work outside of the mission. So she was helping with the mission, and she was also taking on other jobs. She was hustling, or what you call hustling. She was doing her thing with her stagecoach. She was making ends meet. She was creating, once again, similar to the other sister who I just did this because I want to take care of myself. type thing. Well, Mary is that on triple dipple steroids, like for real. So now look at this. That's an actual picture. They did have a redacted one with color, but I wanted to stay natural as possible. Mary was unfortunately dismissed from the mission. This was due in part to her crass behavior, unruly temper, and penchant for drinking and smoking in saloons with men. The final straw appears to involve an argument in which Mary and another mission janitor, a male, got into a fight and were agitated to the point that both of them drew guns, while neither ever fired their gun. This incident was enough to make the bishop of the area demand for the nuns to just relieve her of her duties. So Mary moved to neighboring Cascade, Montana, where she tried but failed to open one or more eateries. They were said to have failed due to her giving nature of allowing folks who could not pay to eat for free. Mary also reportedly set up a laundry shop and did other odd jobs to make money or to make ends meet. Do what you gotta do. Just don't sell your soul. It is around this time that Mary's drinking, her gun toting, and her smoking become well known to the townspeople of Cascade. They know who she is, right? So in 1895, in her early 60s, watch these numbers. She's in her early 60s, 1895. She obtains a contract by the United States Post Office then, when she's in her early 60s, to be a star route carrier. A star route carrier was an independent contractor. That's what the US the post office is. When it says USPS, those are all contractors, by the way. The duty of carrying the mail is a duty for the postmaster, but they have contracted out and set up nice little buildings, and employees are in there, and they're all contracted. A star route carrier was an independent contractor who used a stagecoach to deliver the mail in the harsh weather of northern Montana. Mary was the first African, quote unquote, African American woman and the second woman to receive a star route contract from the United States Post Office Department. So the other one was a minor European. This contract was secured with the help of the Ursuline nuns. The nuns wished to look out for Mary, even though they knew she was coarse and crass and whatever. They had a connection with the being. So the nuns wished to look out for Mary as they felt connected with her. This was because they did not wish to see her go. They didn't want her to go, as the nuns heavily also relied on Mary for work done around the mission. They relied on her and they trusted her. You can't buy trust. And by the way, you can't be betrayed unless you have loyalty in the first place. So obviously they had a connection. But look at this. This is her. And her stagecoach got Stagecoach Mary on it, right? That's real. So look what else. Mary built a reputation of being fearless while working as a mail carrier. Mary's job was not only to deliver the mail, but to also protect the mail from bandits, from thieves, from wolves, and the weather as well. Mary gained her nickname Stagecoach Mary due to her use of a stagecoach as a method of transportation to deliver the mail. Mary was also known for the guns she carried. During the time that Mary was delivering the mail, she was known to carry both a rifle and a revolver. Mary spent 8 years delivering the mail as a star route carrier. During this time, Mary became beloved. She became beloved by the locals of Cascade, Montana, for her fearlessness and her generosity, as well as for her kindness to children. Mary retired from being a star route carrier in the early 20th century. After her retirement, Mary settled into life in Cascade, Montana. Now, as you can see, she's getting older. Upon retiring, Mary started She started the laundry business in the town. She also opened an eatery. Yeah, so she got her success on the eatery. If at first you don't succeed, try again, right? She also opened an eatery as well as babysat the local children. She remained famous, even becoming the mascot for the town's baseball team. Mary needed some love, and that's what she found. Mary was beloved by the people of Cascade so much so that she drank in saloons for free and she ate for free at the local restaurants and hotels. That's what y'all call celebridom, right? Mary Fields was celebrity, celebration, celestial vibration. These are energies that are felt and reciprocated without judgment or bias. All right. Mary Fields died on December the 5th, 1914. After her death, the townspeople raised money to have her buried in a cemetery on a road she drove frequently that linked Cascade to the mission. Mary's funeral was said to be one of the largest in the town. And here's another picture. See how she gets older. Mary's legend grew after her death. That's how it goes. She was made a her, with her inheritance, she was made a hero, a symbol of female quote unquote black empowerment. Yet how did Montanans truly know about her during her time in Cascade? Were people capable of understanding the autonomy, persona, and character of a freed, literate, quote, African American woman who did not conform to the ideals put on her by society? Mary drank and wore men's clothing at times. She smoked and carried guns. Yet in death, she has become this powerhouse woman. Mary had the ability to become the first, quote, African American woman star route carrier during a time when the West was a predominantly, quote, white society, which says something to Mary's relentless character and larger than life personality. Now, this writer said, how did this all make her feel? None of us can guess what she went through, but we can see this life. We can see her energy. We can see that Mary gave love and was generous and needed it too. We can see that she didn't conform. I think in my mind something went down. Something cray went down that also affected. And I don't mean that to say that that's why she's the way she is. I'm just saying there's a lot missing there. But this is a statuish example of a persona of masculine outgoing energy. Is masculine outgoing and incoming. That's all that it is. All right. So I don't have any. I do have. I wanted to show this picture because this is the one I just showed here. That's how it is. And this is an example of how these people do the art and bring it up. And this picture was the original picture. But at the top, I took the one that was colorful. I wanted to give her color and, like she was a personality. The credits for this, they did a really good job. But when they asked, how do you think this made her feel? Whoever wrote this also got into the psychology a little bit and into the humanity of this person. That's how it took me also. So her name was Shelley Amspatcher, a student at George Washington University, where she is working on her master's in museum education. She received her undergraduate from Hood College, where she majored in art and archaeology. She's an intern when she did this, so it's pretty cool. Now we're going to Harriet Jacobs, my sisters, my sisters, my sisters. This pulls in everything even from the beginning when I started talking about the amalgamation. This is a mother-daughter story as well. This is another sense of what the lower self desires will do and does to others. There's a lot of things that we have picked up and continue to intermingle into our existence, and we need to like be really aware maybe of this. I'm not saying you on the listening, but just all of us, because remember, we're living in a parallel reality. During this time of all of this stuff, even the slavism, or slavism, is that a word? Slavism. Uh, it was propagandized and propped up. Like, how do I say this? People who lived in the South that never saw signs that said white fountains only and all that. That was like staged, and it was meant to promote and keep us in that mindset. This is why with these classes, including the civics, we're showing you that certain things were happening at the same time. There was people who were free doing their thing. It's a matter of where your mind, what reality you're in your mind. So we have to, like in doing all this research, it's like, okay, yeah, okay, got that. We don't have to revel in the sadness, but we just need to know what the truth is so that we can know that it's real, that there was a parallel reality, that there is a parallel reality. It's a matter of where you want to go with it. Because I am so sure that there was some retaliation or reciprocation that never got reported on our end towards them. That's not going to be reported. Not going to be reported. So, Harriet Jacobs, 1813, 1897. Harriet Jacobs was an African American abolitionist and writer whose autobiography, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, an account of her anguished life, published in 1861. Now, hold on. An account of her anguished life was published in 1861. We haven't even had emancipation yet. So-called emancipation. Under the pseudonym, which is like the pen name or nom de plume. A lot of people who write have a pen name, and hers was Linda Brent. And it is now considered an American classic. She was born into slavery in Edenton, North Carolina. She was sexually harassed by her enslaver. That's not new news, right? Leading to her escape and becoming a fugitive slave. This sign right here is what is up in Edenton. It's like a landmark. It says Harriet Jacobs, fugitive slave writer and abolitionist. Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. That's the book. 1861 depicts her early life lived in Edenton, and that's where it's at in Edenton today. So it's not surprised that she was a fugitive, but let's look at this. Harriet Jacobs' mother, her name was Delilah, and she was the slave of John Horniblow. Horniblow? Horniblow. Horniblow. He was a tavern keeper. And her father was Daniel Jacobs. And who was he? He was a white slave owned by Dr. Andrew Knox. So when we say, we tell people, look, there were modern European slaves. Yeah, it was going down. Then you go and do this research. This is part of why they don't want you to do the research. They want you to listen to what they say. They want to feed you, give you food for thought from their perspective and their agenda. So clearly she's a mulatto in that. Well, actually, no, she's not, because her mother is what her mother is. Now, I don't know what her mother's mother is, but that's why we keep going down the line, because the blood is exchanged through the mother. That's it. That's all. So her mother was a slave. John Horniblow was the mother's slave master, and he owned a tavern. And our father was a modern European named Daniel Jacobs. He was a, quote, white slave, and he was owned by Dr. Andrew Knox. And that is supposedly the depiction of them that fits what was written. Now, Harriet later recorded this. I was born a slave, but I never knew it till I was 6 years of happy childhood. had passed, until 6 years of happy childhood had passed away. That is when my father, he was a carpenter and considered so intelligent and skillful in his trade that when buildings out of the common line were to be erected, he was sent for from long distances to be head workman on a condition of paying his mistress. It was very, very common for married men or to have mistresses, and for women to never be married but be a mistress. And when it came to where that was so with slave masters, that's when it was sick and deprived or depraved, because they looked at them as property, not as the beautiful women that they were. And all of the things that they enjoyed about her, the beauty, the whatever, they didn't look at it from that. It was from a perspective of property, which made it tainted and insane and depraved. So, on the condition of paying his mistress $200 a year and supporting himself, he was allowed to work at his trade. So he had some freedoms as long as he could do those things, right? And manage his own affairs. His strongest wish was to purchase his children because he knew everybody was a slave. And during that time, whether you are a modern European slave or otherwise, you're going to pay for the property and pay your way out of slavery. That's because slavery was a commodity for real. To house this sickness and the depraved mind. Yeah. So his strongest wish was to purchase his children, but though he several times offered his hard earnings for that purpose of freeing his children, he never succeeded. It was definitely arbitrarily. So in complexion, my parents were a light shade of brownish yellow and were termed mulattoes. They lived together in a comfortable home, and though we were all slaves, I was so fondly shielded that I never dreamed I was a piece of merchandise, trusted to them for safekeeping, and liable to be demanded of them at any moment. So in her raising, although a slave, she's saying, I didn't know I was a slave. See, this is where we get to, like, look, the child is going to be the product of the environment you put them in. They may not know what's actually really going on or be able to understand it until after 7 years old. They have reasoning capabilities. But you know what? So what you expose your child to, they don't know. And this is so perfect for that. Because that's what she's saying. That's what she's saying. I didn't know I was a slave. I didn't know until I was 6. So what happened? Her mother died. That's what happened. And now the reality set in at 6 years old. So Harriet's mother, Delilah, died when Harriet was 6 years old, and she was brought up by her grandmother. Now in 1825, Harriet was sold to Dr. James Norcom. Put a pin in the word Norcom. Norcom had a wife. Remember that. She was sold to Norcom. So she became a house slave. Wow, at 6 years old. Sick, right? Sick. Mrs. Norcom, like many Southern women, now Mrs. Norcom, this is the slave master who just bought her wife. And look at this description of these modern European women, or the suffering and the effects that this energy of enslavement has on anybody. I don't care who you are. So Mrs. Norcom, like many Southern women, was totally deficient in energy. She had no strength to, yes, it's still today, Sister Carol. That's what I'm trying to get us to see. We got to walk away from this. It just changed its form. Oh my goodness, you're going to see this so clear. So she had no strength to superintend her household affairs, but her nerves were very strong that she could sit in her easy chair and see a woman being whipped till the blood trickled from every stroke of the lash. She was a member of the church, but partaking of the Lord's Supper did not seem to put her in a Christian frame of mind. If dinner Now, this is the master's wife. If dinner was not served at the exact time on that particular Sunday, she would then station herself in the kitchen and she would wait until the food was all dished out and then spit in all the kettles and the pans that had been used for cooking. She did this to prevent the cook and her children from eking out their meager fare with the remains of the gravy and other scrappings. They was going to get scraps anyway, and she spit in that. That's some sick. I don't care. That's sick. That's beast sick. That's mentally ill, y'all. The slaves and evil. The slaves could get nothing to eat except what she chose to give them. Now let's go here. That's Norcom on the right. I meant to tag that. That's that. Is that Norcom or is that the senator? Okay. No, that's Norcom. You can look at his eyes and see, even in a picture, a nasty beast. Harriet found happiness after her mother's death, though, because at that point she moved into the home of her mother's mistress. Now, I'm trying to understand that one. Oh, of her mother. Oh, yeah, because there's a tie here. There's a tie here with this family, and I think it's of Norcom's wife's mother's mistress, because I was trying to figure this one out. But let's move on. She was a kind woman who nurtured the young Harriet, teaching her to read and sew and seeing to her well-being. The happiness would not last, though. Upon the death of this benevolent mistress, when Harriet was 12 years old, the ownership of Harriet was then transferred to the mistress's niece. Look at this, y'all. You see this chain of things like property? Yes. So now the ownership of Harriet is transferred to the mistress's niece. But guess what? The niece was only 3 years old. Do you see? Y'all talk about let's do a trust and stuff like that. You see? She was only 3, but that's her inheritance. Her inheritance is going to be getting this sister as a slave. To be getting a slave. So the niece, she's 3 years old, and she know when she grow up, she already got a slave. It's in the inheritance. Oh, and by the way, if that slave that she got now, when she gets older, because she's only 3, whoever her babies are becomes her slaves. I mean, that's how inheritance works. Sick. So she was only 3. So now what happens is, since the niece was only 3 years old, Harriet's actual master then was the father. This is how she got to Norcom, her slave master. He had to automatically, by de facto, become her actual master because the little girl's only 3 years old. Keep it in the family, y'all. Now, Mr. Dr. James Norcom is the slave master of Harriet. So this man would be the cause of great deal of misery. I meant to take this out of green and I forgot. It was not, though, Harriet's nature to give up without a fight. This is about the rest of her lifetime. Harriet Jacobs would thwart repeated sexual advancements made by her master, Norcom, for years. She eventually ran away to the north, and that's how she became a fugitive. But check it out. Here's what she thought she was going to try to do. Maybe a baby will change things. We got that idea today, some sisters and brothers. Oh, yeah, when we have a baby, we're going to stay together, right? Because now, I'm baby daddy, you the baby mama. Yeah, I got a baby mama. My baby mama, she getting on my nerves. She just had the baby. I think she just had the baby just so she could keep me. Yeah. And then she say, well, I'm going to just have a baby. And that way I'm just going to keep him. This is where it comes. This is the energy behind it. So she says around the time that Harriet turned 15, because he kept on, now she's 15, she's blossomed now. He really, he's still coming in advances with her. But at the same time, he doesn't really want his wife to know, but still, this is what's happening. She's a de facto default, by default, slave for him and his horrible self. So around the time Harriet turned 15, Norcom began his relentless efforts to bend the slave girl's will, to bend the slave girl's will, to bend her will. At first, see, this sound like anybody you know, sisters. At first, he whispered foul words in her ear. As time went on, his tactics became more overt. Still, Harriet refused to give in. To get Harriet away from his wife, who was suspicious of her husband's intentions, guess what Norcom did, y'all? He built a cottage for the girl slave 4 miles from town. Oh, yes, sister, yeah, he done bought me a house. I don't know about what his wife doing, but he take care of me. I got a house. He got me a car. I don't need to. No, that's just the way it is. I'm kept. Where you get that from? Give and take, which would be balance. This where you got from. These modern European slave masters, beast mind. So he built. Yes, we are so limited, man. We need to break the shell. So he says to get Harriet away from his wife, who was suspicious of her husband's, and she was his wife, crazy one that spits in the pots. That one right there, that one. She's suspicious of her husband's intentions, so he built a cottage for the slave girl, 4 miles from town. Harriet had previously asked Norcom for permission to marry a free, quote, black man. Norcom had violently refused. Harriet had a plan to disrupt his fight for sexual conquest. This is her plan. She said she became friends with a caring, quote unquote, white man, an unmarried lawyer. That unmarried lawyer became a senator, and he had Harriet as his mistress while he's sitting on the Senate. So that's what eventually happened. That's what happened. I just had to jump ahead. Where you get that from? How is it that you are going to be a senator and of decorum and of supposedly higher social moralness, but it's all right to have a little a mistress that's a slave girl? What? This is where it all comes from, y'all. So here we go. So she decides she's going to mess with this man, unmarried. He was unmarried, but he was a lawyer at the time. And she would, in her mind, she had a baby. She would become sexually involved with this man, the lawyer, the unmarried lawyer. She would become pregnant, and an infuriated Norcom, her slave master, would then sell her and her child. That's the plan she had. So a child was conceived. Now, Harriet thought for sure it was something to triumph over my tyrant in that small way, that he's going to get rid of her now because she ain't gone with his advances. She done messed around with another man and had children. Surely he going to get rid of me. So she thought. But now this is this revenge, and this payback or whatever. That got to be mixed in it. Like his pride is messed up now. In his mind, watch other people's intent. Yeah. It was survival mode for her. I'm not gonna say that it wasn't. It was, but it was miscalculated, because when you're dealing with something that is beast, doesn't matter. Something lower, as you're gonna see here. So it was nonetheless, Norcom had no intention to sell her. Like he would really care that she had 2 more babies when he's seeing her as just a piece of meat anyway. But it was more his ego that was affected. So now we see where that comes from. So guess what she did? Oh my God. She ran away. But it was after she convinced Norcom to sell. No, there was a trick done here, y'all. Okay, get ready. This was a trick here. She only ran away after she knew that Norcom, he wanted to hurt her, so he sold her babies. That's what he did. See, she thought he would sell her because that's moral, and the money with her babies. She didn't know Is what she didn't know. He's like, yeah, I'm going to sell your babies and separate them from you. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what he did. However, she had convinced the unmarried lawyer. He was the one, and Norcom didn't know that he was selling them to someone through a broker, because that's really what it was like. That was actually going to give them to the lawyer that the babies that she had that she was a mistress for, the lawyer who later became a senator. Norcom, the slave master, didn't know they were going to end up going to Norcom, but he did. I mean, to the father or the senate, the lawyer. He did it to keep her babies, together, so to speak. And he didn't know, though. He thought he was selling. This is where his ego got hurt. He thought that he was selling it to someone out of the state. But in reality, there was a broker deal behind the scene that the unmarried lawyer was going to make sure he got them, and then he had them sent to her, a family member or something like that, in New York. All right? And that's how she ultimately goes and gets her children. But Norcom didn't know. He felt duped and he felt tricked. So his evil dial is up. And he puts out a reward on her. And look, $100. I'm going to read it to you in a minute. I have it bigger, but here's what it did. This sister, for 7 years, after 7 years of this, was her limit. And then she hid out in a porch, under a house, for an additional 7 years. But because the relationship of the house was only 600 feet away, because I told you there's entanglement here, and where she was hiding, she could see her children, but she couldn't come out, and she had to live in these conditions. So Harriet gave birth. Still Norcom pursued Harriet. The harassment continued even after she bore the lawyer another child. So she had two. She had a son and a daughter. Finally, after she learned that Norcom was preparing to put her children to work as plantation slaves, she had had enough. In June of 1835, after 7 years of mistreatment by him, Harriet escaped. For a short time, she stayed with various neighbors, both, quote, black and, quote, white. Then she moved into a teeny crawl space above a porch that was built by her grandmother and uncle. The space was 9 feet long, 7 feet wide. Damn near coffin, huh? Its sloping ceiling, only 3 feet high at one end, didn't allow her to turn while laying down without hitting her shoulder. Rats and mice crawled all over her. There was no light and no ventilation. But her children had been bought by the lawyer and were now living in the same house. Harriet could even see them while they played outside through a peephole that she had drilled. She lived in this crawl space for 7 years, coming out only for brief periods at night for exercise. So let's look at what a reward is by a narcissist that has his feelings hurt because he feels he got duped. $100 reward will be given for the apprehension and delivery of my servant girl, Harriet. She is a light mulatto, 21 years of age, about 5 feet 4 inches high, of a thick and corpulent habit, having on her head a thick covering of black hair that curls naturally, but which can be casually combed straight. She speaks easily and fluently and has an agreeable carriage and address, meaning her body, her carriage and her address. Being a good seamstress, she has been accustomed to dress well, has a variety of very fine clothes made in the prevailing fashions, and will probably appear, if abroad, tricked out in gay and fashionable finery. As this girl absconded from the plantation of my son without any known cause or provocation. Like, really? It is probable she designs to transport herself to the north. The above reward, with all reasonable charges, will be given for apprehending her or securing her in any prison or jail without the Union States. All persons are hereby forewarned against harboring or entertaining her, or being in any way instrumental in her escape under the most rigorous penalties of the law. James Norcom. Now, in 1842, she made her escape to freedom. She sailed to Philadelphia, and after a short stay, she traveled to New York City by train. There, she was reunited with her daughter because they had sent, when they set it up, they sent the daughter up to family. So she reunited with her daughter, who had in the meantime been sent by the father, right? That's the unmarried lawyer. But Norcom didn't know he was going to be the one that was going to get the children, which is why he felt it slighted. Sound like a beef, right? Yeah. Harriet would later move to Rochester, New York, to be close to her brother. She had a brother who was also a fugitive slave. There, she became involved with the abolitionists associated with Frederick Douglass' paper, the North Star. That paper was called the North Star, and we all know why. In the following years, she would move back to New York, flee to Massachusetts to avoid Dr. Norcom, the slave master who was looking for her, and got an reward out for her, and she would finally became legally free after a friend arranged her purchase. Oh man, they act like you stole their car or something. Property. Friends later convinced her to write an account of her life as a slave. The book is called Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. It was one of the first open discussions about the sexual harassment and abuse endured by slave women, a topic that even made many abolitionists uncomfortable. This is the book, and it says that it's published for the author, 1861. This book is being published. Emancipation Proclamation hasn't even come yet. Just a note. And then look at this. Harriet was actively involved with the abolition movement before the launch of the Civil War. During the war, she used her celebrity to raise money for quote unquote black refugees. After the war, she worked to improve the condition of the recently freed slaves. I'm so tired of hearing recently freed slaves. That's why the 14th Amendment was established, right? So look at this. They have a Kids Connect. I found this. They have workshops. So this is an idea of like, because I'm going to finish with something about her daughter and concludes this. But there's enough stuff that you can make workshops of who did what happened. Like this says enslaved turned abolitionist, life events in order, what would Harriet do type thing. So these are worksheets, and this is what they have when they're teaching this stuff. So I thought that was interesting in these different institutions about the lives of these people. So now, lastly, we're going to go to Louisa Matilda Jacobs, which is Harriet's daughter, from the lawyer who became a senator later. Now, this daughter was born in 1833 and she passed in 1917. See, all this stuff is not that far away as we think, right? So she was born in October, which means she was probably a Libra. And she died in April, which is the polarity. We'll have to see her chart. In 1917 in Edenton, North Carolina, which is where she was from, right? She was a quote-unquote African-American abolitionist like her mama and civil rights activist, and the daughter of a famous escaped slave and author, which is Harriet, who we just spoke about. Along with her activism, she also worked as a teacher in freedmen schools in the South and as a matron at Howard University. Now we tie this in. The Freedmen's Bureau, if you've been in the civic classes, the Freedmen's Bureau, that's where these schools has set up schools. Hear me. They've set up schools for teaching. After the Freedmen's Bureau was established, and I told you that we just saw that Freedmen's Bureau became Howard University. So she was also a teacher in the Freedmen schools in the South and as a matron at Howard University. Her family was Samuel Treadwell Sawyer. All right. Her father, excuse me. That's what I told you. Her father was the unmarried lawyer, but he is her father because Harriet was a mistress. He wasn't even married, but he didn't marry her. So her father was Samuel Treadwell Sawyer. He is a congressman and newspaper editor. And his mistress, Harriet Jacobs, we just read about her. He was a mistress, his mistress, and he's a daggone senator, congressman. I said senator. He went all the way to congressman, and it was just like no problem to have mistresses and treat people like that, women like that. It was commonplace. So even with these high supposed positions, at a time when Harriet was enslaved by James Norcom. So Harriet Jacobs had been sexually, we just read about this, but this is now her daughter, Louisa Matilda Jacobs. Like I said, she grew up to be an abolitionist just like her mama. She's teaching in the freedmen's schools, which are turned into Howard University, and other one, any Freedmen's Bureau, the Freedmen's Bureau, what they did is they started establishing schools to teach the newly freed, right, people. So she's into that. Her daddy being Samuel Treadwell Sawyer, the unmarried lawyer who became a congressman, and his mistress, which is her mother, Harriet Jacobs, at a time when Harriet was enslaved by the evil man called James Norcom. Yes, evil mistress was given a negative connotation, but it's really the mistress is the powerhouse. That's right, Sister Olivia. You can look that up. That's exactly right. So now, it's not a bad, like even in the Circle 7 Quran is there. The mistress is really, because see, we weren't talking about marriage then. You got to understand, and marriage license and all that stuff. All right. So yes, you're right, Sister Olivia. You might want to share that when we close here in just a second. So she continually refused his advances and mistakenly. But you know what? If the mistress is the powerhouse, it just goes to show you more how much they disrespected. But they loved the brown woman. Oh, they loved them, right? The poem and everything. Thomas Jefferson, Daniel Boone, all of them, right? All right. So, but she continually refused his advances and mistakenly hoped that her relationship with Sawyer would be a deterrent to Norcom. We just found that out. So this is a story of her daughter now. This is a famous story. Now, this is her son. This is what her son looked like, talking Harriet. That's Harriet's son from the now congressman, and Harriet's daughter on the bottom. Now, as Norcom began to threaten her children in anticipation of coercing Harriet into a sexual relationship, and she became increasingly fearful for them, Harriet chose to escape when Louisa was 2 years old and hopes that Norcom would sell Louisa and Joseph into a safer situation. Harriet's hopes proved correct when the children's father, who is the senator, that should be, I think at the time he might have been a senator, purchased the children from Norcom and sent Louisa, her daughter, who we're talking about, to live with her great grandmother, Molly. That's up north now. They were up north. That's why she had to go north to get her children. Then taking her to Washington, D.C., before sending her to live with a cousin in Brooklyn, New York. Her children, this Matilda, Louisa Matilda, Harriet's children, ended up at New York. That's why she ended up going there. So Harriet located Louisa and fled to Boston. So she got her children after 7. Remember, she said in that box, under that house for 7 years. 7 years, and almost like in a coffin, okay? Yeah, try that meditation for a while. Imagine going through that. So now, remember her daughter Matilda worked in the Freedmen's Bureau as a teacher. This is one of the archive. Look at all the children. Archive. Look what it says. Colored school at Alexandria, Virginia, 1864, taught by Harriet Jacobs, the daughter, agents of New York Friends. Agents? Here's the Mountie horse right here, the security. Of course, y'all know I brought it up closer, as close as I could. These are Freedmen Bureau schools. Harriet's daughter worked in one of them, so I brought this up so you can see it a little closer. Look at that. And then I tried. The more you try to enlarge it, the fuzzier it get. I cut some of it off to get an idea. This is the colored school spoken of that Harriet's daughter Louisa Matilda taught in. It is a freedmen's school for colored children. So this is what the Freedmen's Bureau bought. All right. That's what it brought into play. Right here, the Freedmen's Bureau School. So I'm ending this to say, and I didn't do a research on Shirley Chisholm. There's a movie out on it. You need to watch it. I just want to say, because my mother really adored Shirley Chisholm at the time. She was the first, quote, black congresswoman, 1968. She retired in 1983. In 72. In 72, she ran for, did you know, like someone would say, well, did a woman ever run for president? Would you say, oh yeah, it was Hillary? No, it was her first. She ran. She didn't make it, but she did in 72. And many people may not even know that. And that ends my presentment today. But there was a quote that she said. See, the one quote I wanted to share, I shared, which was Harriet Tubman telling you that the spirit came to her and told her 3 times that she had to do what she had to do. As we said, people would say, well, you crazy, ain't nobody talk to you, the spirit ain't talk to you, who you think you are, but this is the other quote. If they don't give you a seat at the table, just bring a folding chair. Shirley Chisholm said that. I recently watched the movie they have out on Shirley Chisholm. Your daughter did a book report on her. All right, great. Many people don't know that she ran for president because it was in 1972. And they suppress stuff like that. Only when we start to ferret through our own stuff will we find that. So with that, I end my presentment, and I appreciate you listening to it. I do say this: the lion will lay down with the lamb once we have this truth going on. And I want to end with a song out, but a short one that takes us back to the water. Hammer ourselves with the truth. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. All right. So what I want to do is open up for any questions or comments at this time. Thank you. We got to remember those waters. They belong to us. So if no one has any questions.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
I just wanted to say something about what you said earlier about like the lesbian or gay community and stuff like that, and how now, like, how they was supposedly standing up for their rights, and they gave them all these rights, so to speak, and started making it a part of society, and now look what they're doing to them. Now they want to take things away and make it a crime for them to say, like, if you're a man trying to be a woman, and like they're making it where you can't even say that anymore. But just like you brought to the light, and the same thing that I was thinking, I was like, look, everybody can do what they want to do. But since y'all put these people in your business and got these labels on y'all, now look what they doing.
Oh. You said it well, sister. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You're free to do what you want to do without that.
Right.
Yes. No, I appreciate what you're saying. It means that you have now, rather than your own liberty of conscience that you endowed with from birth, right? Instead of, you want to come under a construct that requires permission. And
Right.
yes, and listen, May, the Fifth Amendment or Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, both guarantees due process of law. You don't need to have the 14th that they created for that. Everything you need is right there. The First Amendment, it basically says I do what I want to do as long as I don't infringe on anybody else's other right to do it. But when you look at the political part of them signing up for this, yes,
Right.
they created a political party and they're being cut up to pieces right now.
Right. Yep. And I was just saying this the other day. I think I like made a Facebook post about it, and I was like, see, y'all was minding your own business, and y'all didn't have the people in your business like that. But
Yep.
y'all the ones want to put this on the forefront and want to make everybody else accept you and all of that, and that wasn't nobody business. But y'all put them in y'all business like that. Now y'all mad about it? Like, come on now. It don't
Yeah.
make no sense. You could do what you want to do, just like you brought out. That's your right to do that.
Like I said, they put a slap in the face of humanity by doing that. Like, oh, our rights are
Yeah,
better than
oh yes, most definitely. Yes,
no.
most definitely.
Yes. Oh man, I was like, wow, how much further away are we going to go? So what's happening now is all of that is being, like you can't put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak. I don't care what they do. If next month, 6 months from now, they try to put back all the stuff that they thought they were taking away, everybody should see what this thing really is. It's over. Let them just
Right,
let them fall. They done. Like it's as transparent as it can be. Put your energy otherwise.
right.
That's
Yep,
why we're living in a parallel. That's why these classes and in the civics we're showing that things are happening at the same time. We're bringing it out that look, there was people who were never even slaves. Here they are. This is what they did. There's a parallel reality based on what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying? And where you are with it and where we want to give our energy to. That's why it's
right.
this is important. You know.
Yeah,
But thank you for that, because I'm with you on that. I felt the same way. You should be able to be with, have sex with, love, do whoever you want to. You have that right. You were born with it, and the law.
right,
And here's the thing: the law of the land said so. So why did you need to be seen? You just wanted to show, hey, guess what? I'm not in the closet no more. Who gives a damn? Who cares?
right. Yeah,
I mean, it's not that you don't care, but it's like, why is this important to
right,
humanity? Something's wrong if your mindset is even there. You should be able to do what you are able to do what you want. But if you are
right,
egotistical or no, not egotistical, you're feeling lack of confidence about who you are and what they call coming out of the closet or whatever, that's your issue.
yep.
That's yes.
And I already knew this was gonna happen. I was just looking at the whole setup. Like, okay,
Yes.
they doing all this and doing all that, and watch a few years down the line what they gonna do next. I already knew it.
I
That's
knew they
why it's happening now.
I knew they were gonna pay too, man. I was with you. Thank you for your comment. We have I think Carol had her hand up. Thank you, May.
You're welcome. Thank
All
you.
right, good to hear from you.
You too.
All right. Sister Carol, Mother Carol Bay.
Islam, Sister Roz and Sister May. I just wanted to camel back on her comment because it's so funny. Just the other day, I was reading an article where I don't remember what corporate state it was, but they will criminally charge anyone when they're making out an application and they say that they're a sex that they're not. They passed some law where they will criminally charge them for that. And also, Roz, this was a great session. Thank you so much. Love you very much. Have a great day. Love and
Yes,
Thank
peace
it
to
you.
you.
most certainly was. I loved it. Thanks for the invite.
All right, all right. You're more than welcome. Every sister standing in law is open to enter, as well as the Circle Seven Quran. And I think Lori had her hand up. Lori, you did, unless it was a mistake on your part. Is that you? Yes, Lori.
Yes, Mother Raz. I was listening to this, and I thought it was ironic that um, these women were strong and stood up for themselves, and nowadays um, uh, it's as if you have to be you. Some men have an issue with women being strong like that, and are very vocal about it, and maybe it's
That's
because of how um, some the women that okay, so it's a twofold argument. The women that they're against, um, they're acting strong, I guess, for different reasons. Um, uh, but it's kind of it's hard to explain. On the one hand, they don't want a strong woman; they want a woman who's submissive and so on. But part of me feels like the behavior of some of the women. Um, it causes this kind of reaction from some men. But is it that they want a strong woman, but not one who is acting the way some women are acting, or they just don't want a strong woman, period, because it affects their masculinity? Because
well,
all these women had a masculine edge to them, based on, I guess, their circumstance or whatever. But I'm just trying to, I don't know.
okay, all right. I know. Look, there's masculine, which is outgoing energy, and feminine, which is incoming energy. That's it, and that's all. You can either behave in a manner of being outgoing, either in your persona, right?
You're cutting
Or
off Mother Earth.
all right, what you're talking about and why we're both having this, like, okay, how do we trip over this? Is because of how we've been trained to believe, which is the falsehood. And so there's nobody on the planet that shouldn't want a strong man or a strong woman. It doesn't
Right.
make sense to be anything other than that. So the training that has been put in our heads is that he's masculine only and she's feminine, all of this, and he is so watching her be outgoing is I think someone just put it in the chat. It approaches their femininity that they have in them because we both have both. We have both. It's the
Right, right.
training of it. My aunt told me, and I'll never forget, she said, girl, listen, these guys will tell you that they want a woman that's not outgoing and not this. Like she used makeup at the time. This was years ago. And they don't want their wife to wear makeup. She said they don't want them to wear anything to flatter themselves, but they out there in the streets going right after the ones who do. You know
Right.
what I'm
Right.
It's the matter of what and how it's been trained. But in this case, you know what I mean? Like it goes across the board for everything because women have been seen as property. We're showing it. And it's based on a lower self desire, the desires of the lower self.
Okay. It's
That's where it comes from.
confusing, though.
It's the training. It's the training. I just saw a tape. It was really cool. I don't know who he was. He says, "Listen, you got to start teaching your daughters when they're young that they're not. You need to start teaching your sons that they're not special because they're male, and you need to start teaching your daughter from the beginning that they're not less because they're feminine. That's where the problem is that we're separate in that respect.
No, I just wanted to say that, and that's what I was saying about our children too, how they're being confused to think because they may exhibit a little bit more manly or feminine or masculine energy that somehow they're gay or they're this or they're that. When just like you said, we're both. So we need to help them to know their duality and how that comes out because I was told like a lot growing up, like you ain't gonna have no man because you too aggressive and you do that, and it was just like that's part of me. Like I can be very soft and feminine and motherly, and then I have this other side that I also need to be able to use. So that's the balance in it, and that's where things get mixed up with our children, and that's why we have 13-year-olds talking about they gay and they like men or they like women and women, and it's just a bunch of confusion.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely correct. So the teaching of how people view this, let's say it's a person that has a lot of masculine signs in their chart. They are going, or meaning outgoing, external,
Right,
meaning
right,
Mars. Opposite of that is Pluto. One is inward transformation, one is outward. And so if someone has a lot of that and she's a female or male, doesn't matter, she's going to express herself outwardly. That doesn't mean she's gay. It doesn't mean she doesn't want to be who she is. Or,
right,
I want to be a man now, like we just showed you a few. Like, what does that mean? It means that I'm using the masculine entity because that's who I am. As you're saying, man, this is just who I am. I can use both. What's the problem?
right,
Stereotype.
right,
And then it's like, oh no, and you don't have a man, therefore you must be, gay or whatever like that. Look, even upon us women raising a certain age when the menopause, where they say we have menopause, which means men are literally paused from being established through or coming through her womb. That is when the energy that's in women actually gets stronger. But what they do, take this pill, take that pill, because they don't want to see the woman actually use the power that she has to direct the rest of the community. That's how strong it
right,
is. But yes, it's about the teaching, and we need to turn it around now. And I think that's why this is happening transparently in the world today. And I think that when the so-called gay society walked into that belief and said, "Oh yeah, it's us now. Yes, and you need to honor us. And you know what? We're gonna go so far as you got to call us by a pronoun or whatever." And then the universe said, okay, thanks for bringing that out because we're going to cut all that down because this is about humanity.
um,
It's not about that. Yes, indeed. We can accept each other for who we are.
right.
Yes, yes. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mother.
You are so welcome, Sister Laurie. I hope we helped explain it to you because it is hard to explain. We don't have the
No,
words because we weren't trained. We were not given it on the foundation. We were not given it. We were given a separation, and when you think about it, that's cray. This is why you see a lot of women and the stuff we do. They don't want to show that because that's messing up the program. But it already has done its job in creating friction and confusion to this day. We trust it'll clear up later
right,
because there's
right.
women, like I come from a family, and maybe others, of construction. So if I know how to pick up a hammer and a nail and use it because something needs to be nailed, does that make me? What does that make me like? I'm not being a woman now. That's crap.
Yeah.
It's
The,
just must be removed. You see.
yeah. The thing is that growing up with parents who my mom, she was more like one of those ladies you talked about. But my father was a strong person too, but there was never an issue, and I never saw that, and even here, is it a recent thing? Because it was never like this as far as I'm, and if
Based
you
on
tell
what they grew up with. You see, this is
too,
why I said earlier, like this, the girl Harriet, she was 6 years old. She didn't even know that she was a slave and property. You understand? This environment. You just said your
right.
mother was like, were you saying your mother was outgoing?
Yes, she was, and she was more of she had ideas. She would come up with all this stuff, She always was forward thinking, and my father would just go along with it. He wasn't threatened by it at all. So
He was
that's what I'm
smart.
saying. Yeah,
Good man. He was a good man. She creates the body that you come in, but she can't have an idea on building
yeah,
something with the hands. She can
yeah.
build stuff with no hands and no tools, but you want to suppress her from, an idea, or building anything else or building an idea. It doesn't make sense, right? So
Right,
you're
yeah,
probably smart, because the women run the home in that respect. I always told people, oh, you think you run the home, something's going wrong, something's not right, because her genuine naturally inclination to nurture is always with her. Wait, even if something has tempered it or injured it or whatever, It's still there. Just like when I go to Stagecoach Mary, I feel something for her. I know she went through some stuff. I know. I just can feel it in reading it.
Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Lori. It's all going to
Yeah.
get better now. It's all transparent, so nothing is hidden. It's all going to be out in the open. Thank you
Uh, uh,
for your concerns. And let's see what we got going on before we close out. I think, let me just look at this chat. What Jay say? I think it's always been there, but social media, thank you, Jay, is showing us what has been hidden. It's always been there, but it was propagandized to things were propagandized and the media to show the agenda that they had not to show certain things. And now they don't have a handle on it. It's all just flowing and showing. That is correct. That is correct. Yeah, the media, the internet, everything, right? It's all exposed now, transparent. So with that, I really enjoyed this study that I did here. And like I said, it's for us to really see the parallel world that we live in, that things are going on. And at the same time, it's a matter of whose agenda are you following instead of your own. Follow the dictates of your soul and accept things for what they actually are. Yeah, especially when it comes to, yeah, it's almost like if they don't realize that womb man, WMBAMAN, is to bring the sisters and the brothers to the Zerg plane. It's like they biting the hand that feed them.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have to remember that we, you chose to be that vessel. That was part of the covenant, the agreement, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yes, and
yeah.
now the truth says, okay, this is the truth. You said you wanted the truth. You can't handle the truth, but all of it is raining down. All of it is coming at the same time. Like it's all being transparent. It's gonna be all right. We're gonna find ourselves wherever we can solve our problems best as we follow the dictates of our soul and drop these constructs that have been propagandized and trained and recognize that that's somebody else's agenda. Let them fall on where they gotta fall. You ain't trying to push them. You're not trying to do anything but what you're supposed to be
Mm,
doing, and it'll all come together. Yes. Any other comment?
indeed. Love and peace, Sister J Bay. I thought I saw her pop up. Yeah, love and peace to Sister J Bay. Yeah, awesome, great.
She, yeah, J Bay's in the house. What's up, JJ?
All right.
Love and peace. Love and
Love
peace.
and peace.
I did. I came late. I'm so upset. It's so much going on in this time of year for me. But I did get to make it and I'm so happy. From what I heard, it's just wonderful, excellent, excellent, excellent class, wonderful build. Um I just do agree, especially what Sister Lori was speaking on, that masculine feminine energy, that people get confused and or make it into such a of not allowing people to be themselves. And when I say people, I mean that's male or female, just allowing them to be themselves and to love themselves. Whether you have more outgoing or ingoing energy, just expressing yourself is such a big thing. And I think a lot of the problem with the sisters, so to say, is that we don't fully be ourselves because of that, the scaredness or the of just that being thinking of being judged because of how your demeanor may come off instead of just being you. So I just had that issue myself, and now I'm just, you come to a point in your life where you just say, I don't care about what nobody gonna say, think, or whatever. I'm just
Yep.
gonna do me. And when you do that, everything around you changes. Even the people around, or the people's opinions around you change, because the truth of the matter is we always had the power. We just didn't believe in that. So you have the power to change that world around you. just by being you fully, without holding back. So this class is very, very beautiful class. And I thank you, Mother Ross, for doing the research and presenting this to us and about other mothers who just went and went for the stars. And now we're here today where we have more freedom to speak, more freedom to do things that we just didn't, it wasn't as acceptable, right? So I just want to say love and peace to everyone here. And it just feels good to hear everyone's comment and participation. So thank you.
You're welcome. You said a key thing. You said when you get to that point where you are not concerned, because we don't want, like we'll say, well, I don't care about, but we'll just put it because we all care. We're not concerned about what someone else thinks about what you just did or what you are doing. And if you can get to that point, you have made it up at least one of the 3 steps to to the next level.
Absolutely.
And you
Yes.
can't get there, and you're still worried about what someone else will think. And the universe is showing you that what has been given to you for decorum and order is a farce. And so, what ends up happening when you believe that something should be this way or that way or that way, you are doing what is called what? Judging. And base it off of what? Off of what you think things are supposed to be. And they are supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to be who you are. Yep.
Hmm. And if you, and even if you on the other side of that too. So say that you see a situation transpire, whether it be with a friends or family, right? And you're on the other side, like, she do not need to do that, he do not need to do that, or blah blah blah. And then it actually works itself out, and you're like, oh well, you'll find yourself where you humble yourself and be like, oh well, it did work out. And then I believe that that's what happened to people around you. When you just do you, their opinion will change once they see that you succeeded or you didn't, whatever the case, because it's not, success comes in many different ways and shapes and forms. So what you
Yeah.
think was a loss, and I just read this too, and I love this quote. What may be a loss in the world, in the worldly view, is the win on a spiritual level. So when I say success, I'm not, that doesn't, it's not limited. And so yeah, so once you continue like to do you, and then you succeed, the opinions of the people around you is like, oh shoot, well, maybe I was wrong about her, or maybe I was wrong about that situation, or that was the right move. It's just like, don't worry about what the world is thinking, because they don't know what the universe has in store for you. So that's such a big thing, um, for us as mothers to realize, and just for everyone on a universal scale, males and females to realize, but especially mothers, just to do you, like really do you, do
Mhm.
exactly what you came here to do, and everything else will fall into place. So
Wow, what a wonderful message. Thank you, Sister J. All right. We started with saying that she takes you to the water, to the river. We showed that that's what she still does, mother's womb of man, and that river is her womb. Takes you down to the river, right? And what I really liked about that song words there said that even Jesus, right, watched for a long, long, long time from an old tower. And then when he saw that only drowning men could see him, that's when he said, well, then all men shall be sailors. So we went through the water. We know there's a river that flows through everything from everyone. There's a voice that speaks from afar. With that, from an ancient, right, to everyone over the hills and the mountains and the valleys and everything. So it's only right to end with this. And although with all the pains, the aches and the pains and the things that have gone down and the atrocities towards humanity, and the specifically suppression of the giver of humanity that takes you down to the river to bring you here in those 7 stages of development in the water, she said, I have cried many tears. I'm drying them up because I have to descend to try to fix what is lacking, to assist or to uplift and raise fallen humanity. These classes are for the mothers, the daughters, the sisters, and all of our children. And we like to bring important messages here for women because we are aware that no nation will ever rise higher than its women. We don't need to guess why. Everything comes through her river, her water. She endows them right there, right? So if she's not right, well, that's why that statement is made. And I trust we understand it in its fullness. On this platform, first Sunday of the month, we have the Circle 7 Sunday with Sister J Day, 1 p.m. And then every Wednesday, we have our civic class. Now, in our civics class, or civics for the rising generation, because there's no such thing as civil rights, it's civil or civilized liberties that are expressed everywhere for every man. When I say man, I mean men and women, all four corners of the earth. And Enlighten Asiatic with Sister Karima Bay on the third Monday, and then go to our go-to class YouTube, and then there's a Mantis Views YouTube. So with that, I say good evening, and I leave you with this.
And I just want to say it's still Women's History Month. And I want to give a little PSA to my divine feminines and people who want a divine feminine. You have seen a woman, you recognize her divinity. You're like, this is a whole goddess out here. I want her, okay? Please be careful with the divine feminine because the divine feminine is a woman that has to be given to, okay? I'm not just talking about materials. You have to give to her in all the ways that she desires to be given to, right? You have to provide her with safety and protection and honesty and loyalty, things that help her thrive. The reason for that is because the divine feminine is directly connected to the Most High God. That's why she's so protected, because she is the source between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. She's the vessel between you wanting a blessing and you receiving that blessing. Just like a woman who can produce a child, she has the ability, she is the portal between a child coming from the spiritual realm and being brought out into the physical realm, okay? I saw a creator not too long ago, and unfortunately, I do not remember her name. But if you see this, then girl, you was on point, because she said she's pretty, but can she get a prayer through? Okay, and I was like, hold up now. That's what I mean by that. And you don't have to be religious. I'm just saying, like, she is like, she sits with the Most High God, right? So God not only has his eyes on her and every single person around her, he makes sure that she is blessed because her energy is very important to this world. And if you are ever granted the honor of coming across a divine feminine and you try to humble her, you try to shame her, you try to belittle her or harm her in any type of way, when I tell you that your life is going to fall apart, you will never be the same. The reason for that is because most people recognize the divine feminine when they see her. Okay, they recognize this goddess when they see her. You knew who you were dealing with, okay? You knew who she was when you saw her, but instead of giving to her and nurturing her properly, you try to play with her and harm her. And this goes for platonic relationships. This goes for family and romantic relationships. It does not matter how you are presented in this divine feminine's life. You just better make sure that you come correct, okay? Because God really, really has a special place in his heart for his divine feminines, the woman of this earth, because we have very, very healing energy. And when you give to a divine feminine, it not only blesses her, it not only blesses you, but it blesses everything in proximity to y'all, okay? Like an entire union. This union of the divine feminine and the divine masculine masculine, which is somebody who recognizes the divine feminine and gives to her as she is supposed to be given to, y'all are going to be blessed, okay? When you give to a divine feminine properly, you are going to be so, so, so blessed, okay? I'm pretty sure some of you can attest to that. And again, this is not just about romance. This could be friends and family too. Like, she has the ability to walk in the room and just shift the whole energy. She has the ability to heal. She has the ability to take somebody who was battling depression, and just with her energy alone and just with her essence, her divinity, her words, her music, her writing, whatever creative gifts that she has the ability to change their entire world. That is why God blesses her so much, and he also blesses people who recognize her and give to her as she's supposed to be given to. So happy Women's History Month to my divine feminines, my ladies. Please, please remember who you are and do not let anybody approach you without coming all the way correct.
Have a wonderful evening.